Hello BookTube, my name is Elizabeth. Welcome back to my channel, Book as in Books. It's been a while since I did something for Poetry Thursday, and recently I read a poem and I want to talk about it. It's this one. It's the best title of the year. Duck eats yeast, quacks, explodes, man loses eye. And it is a poem by Gary Barwin and Lillian Nećakov. Nećakov, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it. And this is a single poem. It says poem, not poems. And it is somewhat of a dialogue between the two poets. However, it's not said who wrote what. So it's just while reading, you can sort of see that one fragment is answering another because everything comes in numbered fragments. So even though it's a single poem, it feels a bit like a collection, even though it must be read in order. And I'm tempted to say logical, but it's not quite logical because this is poetry. So it's really just latching onto an idea that leads to another one, that leads to another one. So by the time we reach the end of the poem, we are very far from the story of the duck that exploded. Because yes, that is the basic story of the book. It is based on a true story. It's the non-fiction. So this is an article that appeared a long time ago. I think it was in 1910 in a newspaper in Des Moines, Iowa. And the story goes like this. The strangest accident recorded in local history occurred this morning when Rhadamanthus, a duck which took a prize at the recent Iowa poultry show, exploded into several hundred pieces, one of which struck Silas Perkins in the eye, destroying the sight. The cause of the explosion was the eating of yeast, which was placed in a pan upon the back porch and tempted his duckship, which was taking a Sunday morning stroll. Upon returning from church, Mr. Perkins discovered his prize duck in somewhat dodgy condition. Telltale marks around the pan of yeast gave him his clue. He was about to pick up the bird when the latter quacked and exploded with a loud report, and Mr. Perkins ran into the house holding both hands over one eye. A surgeon was called who found that the eyeball had been penetrated by a fragment of flying duck and gave no hope of saving the optic. So this is the starting point of the book, and at the same time I think it represents rather well the atmosphere of the book. There's definitely a layer of ridiculousness in there because a duck exploding, there's something basically inherently ridiculous about that, but at the same time there's a bit of sadness. Not that this book is sad, but once in a while, despite the somewhat light tone, there's a sentence, there's a stanza that's just going to grip you, and that's it. That's rather profound when you think about it. Not to mean that the rest is not, but once in a while there's a mixture of light ideas and of deeper, more reflexive stuff. So there's definitely a visual aspect to many of these poems. So there are like this, that's part of the poem. Of course, I'm not going to find any like this, or this, or this, or so there's a visual aspect to several of the poems, but at the same time the words are more important. There's a bit of a mathematical aspect to it, and that also went right above my head because I'm not the best in mathematics. Well, I used to be rather good when I was in school, but I haven't used it in so many years that I forgot pretty much everything about it. So what I wanted to do was to read you a few fragments. So I've flagged like 3 of the fragments. Even though it's a single poem, it is presented in numbered fragments, and you can sort of hear the poets answering one another. Yeah, most of the time. Sometimes I can't, but it doesn't mean that they're not talking to one another. I'm going to start with, well, the first one that I flagged. It is number 69, and for copyrights reason, I'm not going to copy it in the description box. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to correct the closed captions, which I haven't done since I think the beginning of the year. But for this one, I'm going to do that. And a slash is going to mean it's the end of a sentence, of a line, not so much a line, and a double slash will be the end of a stanza, so that we can sort of see. So the first one that I want to read goes like this. Only the part of the world that doesn't want to be in a poem should be in a poem. The only thing worse than making rules is following rules. Grammar, you are not the lark of me. Grandma, you neither. Not wrinkles, jazz wrinkles. As clouds are to water, ages to age. Let's leave the ship, haul the mountain beneath it. In our swimming pool this morning, 2 ducks, a pair of ducks. We don't have a pool of ducks. I like the last 2 lines. Well, I like the entire fragment, but the last 2 lines in particular. Fragment 82. This one has visual component to it, so I don't know how well I'm going to be able to read this. And some of the words here have no spaces, so I copied them with spaces so I could read them to you without getting too confused and having to look at the book like this. So what I liked about fragment 82 is the play with the sounds. There's a lot of it in the book. A lot of it I read out loud because I could feel that there was this play with the sounds, and I really enjoyed that. Watching from shore, remember. Wave, ocean, 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 wave, ocean, 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 ocean. Windless, endless world, a mirror wherein whales when below dive so deep, even on blue is blue. Whale clouds, their ocean lark tails undulate under the secret sun, a distant mystery. The Benny Dizzy jazz of above light filters, the sea a wound in earth filled with this blue song. Whales watched by blue spanning lark, a sigil, a spinning, a churning wherein the waves are still. Ocean and ocean and ocean, emotion, emotion, wave. Moon and ocean, tide by tide, ashore, the wave ashore. Wave a where, wake a wave away, a wave a water where. I like that one. And finally, fragment number 137, which is almost stand-up comedy, which goes with the title, which sounds a bit ridiculous until you realize that it's quite tragic. My grandfather's town so small, if you said its name as you walked in, you'd have walked out before you'd finish. Mark Twain said, those who are inclined to worry have the widest selection in history. If the rich could hire other people to die for them, the poor could make a wonderful living. That's kind of sad when you think about it. So that's it. That's all I'm going to read from this book. It's a lot of fun. It's available pretty much everywhere if I believe the price tags. So it's $20 Canadian, $17.95 US, and $11.95 UK. So I guess it's available pretty much everybody in the English-speaking world. And it is quite fun. So as I said, even though it is a single poem, it is a bunch of fragments, and it reads very, very well. And it's fun. So that's it. That's all I had to say today. Thank you everyone for watching, and I will see you in the next video. À la prochaine.